The surf shop door chimed. Another happy couple walked in hand. "Welcome," I said, plastering on a fake smile. "Looking for anything specific?" They giggled, lost in their own world. I turned away, pretending to reorganize a rack of wetsuits. Later that night, I sat on my bed, staring at my phone. Mom's voice echoed from downstairs. "Brody, dinner's ready." I sighed, thumb hovering over a dating app. Delete. Not worth the risk. "Coming, Mom," I called back, shoving the phone under my pillow. At dinner, Dad cleared his throat.
"So any girls catch your eye at the shop today?"
I forced a laugh. "Nah, just tourists." Mom smiled. "Don't worry, you'll find a nice girl soon." If only they knew. The words caught in my throat, unspoken. After dinner, I snuck out to the beach. The waves crashed in the darkness, matching the turmoil in my chest. "Fuck," I whispered, kicking at the sand. "I can't live like this forever." But as I turned back towards home, I knew I would, at least for now. The cafe door jingled as I walked in, sand still clinging to my feet from the morning surf. "The usual," a voice called out. I looked up, meeting warm brown eyes behind the counter. "Ah, yeah," I stammered, caught off guard by his smile. "Thanks." As he made my coffee, I noticed his name tag. Warren. "You work at Swell Surf Shop, right?" he asked, sliding my drink across the counter. I nodded, surprised. "How'd you know?" He grinned. "I've seen you there. Actually, I could use your help. My little brother's birthday is coming up, and I want to get him his first board." "Oh, cool," I said, trying to sound casual. "When do you want to come by?" "I'm free after my shift. Around 3? "Perfect," I replied, my heart racing. "I'll, see you then." As I left, I couldn't help but look back. Warren waved, and I felt a flutter in my chest I hadn't experienced in years. At 3:05, the shop door chimed. Warren walked in, his cafe uniform replaced with board shorts and a faded tee. "Ready to find the perfect board?" I asked, leading him to the junior section. As we talked shapes and sizes, I found myself relaxing. Warren was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in learning. "So," he said as we finished up, "do you surf yourself?" I nodded. "Yeah, every chance I get." "Maybe." He hesitated, then continued, "You could show me sometime. I've always wanted to learn." I froze for a moment, then smiled.
"Sure, why not?"
As Warren left with his brother's new board, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. For the first time in ages, I felt a spark of hope. Weeks flew by. Our surf lessons became a regular thing, though we spent more time talking than riding waves. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Warren and I sat on our boards, bobbing in the calm water. He said, "I lied about wanting to learn to surf." I turned to him, confused. "What?" He laughed, running a hand through his wet hair. "I mean, I did want to learn, but mostly I just wanted an excuse to spend time with you." My heart raced. "Warren, Wait," he interrupted. "Let me finish. I've been coming to your shop for months, trying to work up the courage to talk to you. The surfboard for my brother. Total bullshit." I couldn't help but laugh. "Seriously?" He nodded, suddenly serious. "Brody, I think I'm falling for you." Time seemed to stop. The waves, the setting sun, everything faded away except for Warren's eyes, locked on mine. I swallowed hard. "I think I'm falling for you too." Before I could overthink it, I leaned in. Our lips met, salty from the sea. It was clumsy and perfect all at once. As we broke apart, Warren grinned. "So, does this mean I get a discount at the shop?" I splashed him, laughing. "Don't push your luck." Later that night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop smiling. For once, I didn't feel alone. But as I drifted off to sleep, a nagging thought crept in. How long could I keep this a secret? Months passed. Warren and I grew closer, but the weight of secrecy grew heavier. One night after a particularly tense family dinner filled with not so subtle hints about setting me up with girls, I snapped. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something," I blurted out. They looked at me, concern etched on their faces. I took a deep breath. I'm gay. And I'm in love with someone. His name is Warren. The silence was deafening. Mom's fork clattered to her plate. "No," Dad said firmly. "No son of mine is. That way." "It's not a choice, Dad," I argued, my voice shaking. "This is who I am." Mom started crying. "Where did we go wrong?" "You didn't," I pleaded. "I'm still me. I'm still your son." Dad stood up abruptly. "Not anymore. I want you out of this house. Tonight." "Dad, please." "Out!" he roared. Tears streaming down my face, I packed a bag and called Warren. "Hey, I choked out when he answered. Can I crash at your place?" "Of course," he said without hesitation. "What happened?" "I'll explain when I get there." As I waited for Warren to pick me up, I looked at my childhood home one last time. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't go against your father. Please don't contact us again." Warren's car pulled up. As I got in, he squeezed my hand. "Whatever happened, we'll figure it out together." I nodded, unable to speak. As we drove away, I felt a mix of crushing loss and unexpected freedom. My old life was over, but maybe, just maybe, a better one was beginning. Warren's tiny studio apartment became our sanctuary. Cramped, but ours. "You sure about this job offer?" I asked, scrolling through apartment listings in the new city. Warren nodded, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "It's a great opportunity." Plus, he hesitated. "It's a fresh start." For both of us, I leaned back into him, thinking of the surf shop, the only life I'd known. "Yeah, you're right." 2 weeks later, we stood in our new apartment, surrounded by boxes. "Home sweet home," Warren grinned, pulling me in for a kiss.
I laughed against his lips. More like home cheap home.
But it was ours, and that's what mattered. The first few months were tough. New city, new jobs, new everything. Some nights I'd wake up in a cold sweat, missing the sound of the ocean. "Hey," Warren would whisper, pulling me close. "I've got you." One night, frustrated with my dead-end job, I vented to Warren. "I feel stuck," I admitted, "like I'm not moving forward." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "What about online classes? You've always been good with numbers." The idea took root. Soon I was juggling work and studying, exhausted but exhilarated. Months flew by. We settled into a rhythm, building our life brick by brick. Movie nights, lazy Sundays, petty arguments over whose turn it was to do the dishes, normal couple stuff. On our 1-year anniversary of moving, Warren surprised me with a trip to the beach. As we stood on the sand, waves lapping at our feet, he turned to me. "You happy?" he asked, a hint of worry in his voice. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The guy who'd stood by me through everything. Who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. "Yeah," I said, meaning it more than I ever had before. "I'm happy." He smiled, relief washing over his face. "Good. Because I was thinking, maybe it's time we started looking for a place of our own. To buy, not rent." My heart skipped a beat. I mean, I'm in this for the long haul, Brody. If you are... I pulled him in for a kiss, tasting salt and promise. "Let's do it," I whispered against his lips. As we walked back to our hotel hand in hand, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just existing. I was living. 5 years flew by in a blur of shared moments and milestones. We bought that house, a fixer-upper that nearly broke us, but became our pride and joy. Every paint-splattered weekend, and midnight plumbing disaster brought us closer. Fuck! I yelled one Saturday, covered in drywall dust.
Why do we think we could do this ourselves?
Warren just laughed, pulling me in for a dusty kiss.
Because we're stubborn idiots in love?
I couldn't argue with that logic. Work took off for both of us. My online degree paid off with a promotion, while Warren climbed the corporate ladder. We started traveling. Weekend getaways turned into exotic vacations. On a balcony in Bali, watching the sunset, Warren turned to me. You ever think about the future? I sipped my beer, thinking, sometimes, why? He shrugged, trying to look casual.
Just wondering if you see me in it.
I snorted. After 5 years of your snoring, you're stuck with me, babe. He grinned, but I saw something deeper in his eyes, a question he wasn't quite ready to ask. Back home, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Sunday brunches with Warren's family became a tradition. His mom, Lisa, pulled me aside one day. You know, she said, squeezing my arm, I've never seen Warren this happy. You're good for him. I blinked back unexpected tears. He's good for me, too. As Warren and I walked home that evening, hand in hand, I felt a surge of emotion. Hey, I said, stopping him. You know I love you, right? He raised an eyebrow. You drunk already? I laughed, shaking my head. No, you idiot. I want you to know. You're it for me. You're my family. Warren's eyes softened. He pulled me close right there on the sidewalk. You're my family too, he whispered. Always. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the cusp of something big. The future Warren had hinted at in Bali didn't seem so scary anymore. In fact, I was ready for it. Ready for forever. Little did I know, Warren had plans of his own brewing. The idea hit me like a wave. I wanted to marry Warren. Planning the proposal was a nightmare of secrecy. Our lives were so intertwined, keeping anything from him felt wrong. You okay? Warren asked one night, catching me hastily closing laptop tabs. Yeah, just work stuff, I lied, hating every second of it. The beach was our spot. It had to be there. I roped in our friends, sworn to secrecy.
The day arrived. My stomach was in knots.
Babe, can you grab my phone? I left it in the car, I asked Warren as we lounged on the sand. He nodded, heading back. The moment he was out of sight, our friends sprang into action, setting up the surprise. When Warren returned, I was waiting by the water's edge.
Walk with me, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady.
As we strolled, he stumbled over the first shell. What's this? He asked, picking it up. Read it, I urged.
His eyes widened as he read the carved message. I'm lucky to have you.
We continued, finding 2 more shells. You complete me, and I love you. Warren's eyes were glistening by the 3rd shell. Brody, what's going on? Heart pounding, I dropped to one knee, pulling out the final shell. Warren, I started, voice shaking. You've been my best friend, my partner, my home. Will you? I opened the shell, empty. Fuck. Oh shit, I muttered, patting my pockets frantically. Warren was laughing now, tears streaming down his face. Finally, my fingers closed around the ring in my back pocket. Got it! Still laughing, I held it up. Let's try this again. Warren, will you marry me? He pulled me to my feet, kissing me hard. Yes, you idiot. Of course. Yes. Our friends cheered, appearing from their hiding spots. As we celebrated on the beach, Warren couldn't stop staring at the ring. You know, he said later as we lay tangled together in bed, I was planning to propose next month. I propped myself up on an elbow. Seriously? He nodded, grinning. Guess you beat me to it. Sorry, I said, not feeling sorry at all. Don't be, he murmured, pulling me close. This was perfect.
As we drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but think. The best was yet to come.
The post-engagement bliss lasted about a week before reality hit. We had a wedding to plan. I had no idea there were so many shades of blue, I groaned, staring at fabric swatches spread across our dining table. Warren chuckled, wrapping his arms around me from behind. We could always elope. I turned to face him. Don't tempt me. His family threw themselves into the planning with gusto. His mom, Lisa, was particularly enthusiastic. Have you thought about inviting your parents, Brody? She asked gently one day as we pored over guest lists. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. They made it clear they want nothing to do with me. Lisa squeezed my hand. People can change. Maybe it's worth trying. That night, I tossed and turned, Lisa's words echoing in my head. What's wrong? Warren mumbled, half asleep. I sighed. Do you think I should invite my parents? He was quiet for a moment. It's up to you, babe. But if you don't, you might always wonder, what if? The next day, I sent the invitation. Days passed with no response. I tried to focus on other things, cake tastings, venue visits, suit fittings, but the silence from my parents was deafening. 2 weeks before the wedding, a familiar number flashed on my phone. Mom. Brody? Her voice was hesitant. Hi. We got your invitation. My heart raced. And your father. He's not ready. But I wanted you to know I love you. I'm sorry I can't be there. Tears pricked my eyes. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. After we hung up, I found Warren in the kitchen. Without a word, he pulled me into a tight hug. They're not coming, I mumbled into his chest. He held me tighter. As the big day approached, the stress mounted. We bickered over stupid things, napkin colors, seating arrangements. The night before the wedding, lying in bed, Warren turned to me. No matter what happens tomorrow, he said softly, remember why we're doing this. It's about us, you and me. I nodded, feeling the tension melt away. You and me. Tomorrow, we'd be husbands, and despite the stress and the family drama, I couldn't wait. Dawn broke, and my stomach was in knots. Today was the day. You ready for this? Warren asked, his voice thick with sleep. I turned to face him, drinking in the sight of my soon to be husband, more than ready. We decided to break tradition and get ready together. As we helped each other with cufflinks and straightened ties, the reality of the moment hit me. Holy shit, I breathed. We're getting married. Warren grinned, pressing a quick kiss to my lips. Cold feet? I shook my head. Never. The venue was a blur of flowers and familiar faces. Warren's family bustled around, directing caterers and adjusting decorations. Our theme, pale blue and green, was everywhere. As I stood at the altar waiting, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Brody, it's Mom. I'm here. Back row. I love you. My heart leapt. I scanned the crowd and there she was, alone, looking nervous, but there. Before I could process it, the music started. Warren appeared at the end of the aisle, and everything else faded away. Our vows were a mix of laughter and tears. I promise to always let you win at Mario Kart, Warren said, earning chuckles from the crowd. And I promise to pretend I don't know you're letting me win, I countered. As we sealed our vows with a kiss, cheers erupted. We turned to face our guests, and I caught my mom's eye. She was crying, but smiling. The reception was a whirlwind. We danced, we ate, we laughed. As the night wound down, I finally had a moment alone with Mom. I'm so glad you came, I said, hugging her tight. She pulled back, cupping my face. I'm sorry it took me so long. You look so happy, Brody. I smiled, glancing at Warren across the room. I am, Mom. I really am. As the last guests trickled out, Warren and I swayed slowly on the empty dance floor. "So, husband," he murmured, "what now?" I grinned, resting my forehead against his. "Now, we live happily ever after." He laughed softly. "Sounds perfect." As we left the venue hand in hand, I felt like I was stepping into a new chapter, one filled with love, acceptance, and endless possibilities. Married life suited us. We fell into a comfortable rhythm, but something was missing. One lazy Sunday morning, Warren broached the subject. "Have you ever thought about kids?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "Kids? Us?" He shrugged, trying to look casual. "Yeah, why not?" The idea took root. We researched adoption agencies, went to workshops, prepared our home. Months of paperwork, interviews, and anxiety followed. Then, finally, the call came. "There's a baby boy," the social worker said. "He's got some health issues, but—" "We'll take him," I interrupted, locking eyes with Warren. He nodded, grinning. 2 days later, we met our son, tiny, fragile, with tubes and wires everywhere. "He's perfect," Warren whispered, tears in his eyes. We named him Ethan. The first few months were a blur of hospital visits and sleepless nights. "I don't know if I can do this," I admitted one particularly rough night. Warren took my hand. "We can do this. Together." Slowly, Ethan got stronger. His first smile, first laugh, first steps. Each milestone was a victory. On Ethan's 5th birthday, surrounded by balloons and cake, he tugged on my sleeve. "Daddy," he said seriously, "I want a brother, or a sister, or both." Warren and I exchanged glances. "We'll see, buddy," I said. That night, we talked it over. "Are we crazy to consider this?" I asked. Warren laughed. "Probably. But when has that ever stopped us?" 6 months later, we welcomed 3-year-old twins, Mia and Lucas, into our family. Our house was chaos. Toys everywhere, constant noise, never enough sleep. And I loved every second of it. One evening, as we collapsed on the couch after finally getting all 3 kids to bed, Warren turned to me. "Remember when we thought surfing was an adventure?" I snorted. "This makes surfing look like a walk in the park." He grinned, pulling me close. "Wouldn't trade it for anything, though." I nestled into him, thinking about our journey. From that first meeting in the cafe to this moment, surrounded by the family we'd built. "Hey," I said softly, "we did good, didn't we?" Warren kissed the top of my head. "We did great, babe. We did great." As we drifted off to sleep on the couch, too tired to make it to bed, I felt a profound sense of contentment. This was everything I never knew I wanted, everything I once thought was impossible for someone like me. This was our happily ever after.